Hello, everybody. This is Tom Eckert here. You're listening to my podcast, Numerology, a GPS for the soul. This is your place to learn about the true power of numerology and how to use it to bring out the best in yourself, understand your loved ones better, take wise decisions, and prepare for your future. In other words, how to live your life aligned with your true destiny. Take your time to educate yourself and share these podcasts with your friends and family so they too can enjoy the great benefits of numerology. Enjoy! Hello there and welcome to all my listeners. I'm excited to share with you today's episode as we are going to have a deep dive into the world of number 8 in a pretty unique way, a different angle, so to speak. But before anything else, if you are new here, welcome to this podcast. In my podcast, we discuss numerology as a path for inner transformation, spiritual growth, and self-understanding. I attempt to make numerology accessible and applicable for everyday life matters. And I do my best to provide you with grounded information so that you can apply numerology in order to improve your life and live it more consciously, more balanced, aligned with your soul and your deeper purpose. Here are a few ways you can dive deeper into numerology should you wish to do so. First and foremost, you can book a numerology reading with me. In a numerology reading, you can ask any question that is burning and relevant in your life and get precise answers, guidance, and perspective. You can read more about my numerology readings on the website, in the link that's provided in the episode descriptions, and book your reading with me. If you wish to study numerology on a deeper level or even pursue it as a career, I invite you to check out my numerology study paths. First, check out my self-study numerology course to learn the fundamentals of numerology at your own pace in a comprehensive way on your mobile, on your tablet, and on your laptop. Or you can sign up to my complete path of certification from beginner to numerology expert and get certified as a professional numerologist. To read about both study paths, check out the links in the episode description. And now, without further ado, let us take the plunge into the world of number 8. Among all numbers, it is always number 8 that is the most perplexing and difficult for my students to get a grasp of. It is individualistic, yet really wants to be appreciated by society. It has a high level of self-control, and yet can get very aggressive. It can be both conservative and supercharged with transformative energy. And the list goes on. Number 8 is most definitely a very unique phenomenon. And if you embody more than one 8 in your core numbers, then I'm pretty sure it took you or will take you on quite a ride. So in this episode, I want to share with you 3 powerful topics you might not have considered related to the 8 in your life, but that are most definitely very intense situations generated by the presence of the 8, and especially multiple 8s or repeating 8s in your core numbers. In general, we must first know that number 8 is highly charged. It is a very energetic and has very powerful instinctual impulses. I actually often refer to it as electric. And as such, it invites both much opportunity and much chaos. The opportunity side is more often talked about. And that's why in this episode, I'll speak about some of its messier, less known sides. So let's take the deep dive into the waters of number 8. Number 8 is a physical number. The kind of number that meets life head on, jumps into the water, and learns through friction. This can be very beneficial when it comes to overcoming obstacles, pushing through limitations, or self-promotion. The 8 can be audacious enough to push its way up the ladder in many ways and forms. But, like everything in life, excess has its prices and consequences. When you have repeating 8s in your core numbers, you might find that same pushiness and friction of the 8 become highly amplified and result in many clashes with people. Friction can be a powerful powerhouse for evolution and growth. But when excessive friction becomes combustible and generates excessive fire energy, this can easily turn into intense fights, quarrels, and fallouts with people in one's life. It's not uncommon also for fights to get physical, because after all, 8 is both intense and a physical number. That's why oftentimes, if you have repeating 8s in your core numbers, you may find yourself in relationships with physical violence, where you may be both on the giving or receiving end of this violence, the victim and the perpetrator. Because the impulses are strong, visceral, and connected to the physical world, 8s will be almost incapable of stopping themselves from getting into a fight, in a trouble, into a messy quarrel. Sometimes it's as if they must let things explode from time to time in order to move on. A bit like overcoming an obstacle by bombing their way through, so to speak. Destroying whatever's on their way as a way of advancing. For this reason, they may have quite some trouble maintaining healthy, non-violent relationships for the long haul. Something deep within them just needs to fight. So this is the first thing I wanted to share with you guys about the 8 that is not that often portrayed in such a way. So yes, we do usually know that 8s can get aggressive or can get angry, but this opens a whole new door here to a completely different dimension of their psyche and their experiences in relationships and in friction with other people. Next, let's dive a little deeper into their physicality. So as you can see, 8 can literally get physical. This is, by the way, a very common number with athletes. Just a little anecdote to kind of elaborate a little bit more about the physicality of number 8. Many competitive people, right? Athletes are competitive. They're both physical and competitive, and so you'll often see an 8. Point is that number 8 has some of the strongest drives and sexual impulses of all numbers. It has great desire. It's full of electricity. Now, again, this can be amazing, invigorating, and highly arousing when balanced. But with multiple 8s or repeating 8s in one's core numbers, this can be quite a roller coaster. With repeating 8s, the sexual and physical impulses are magnified and amplified. And with this magnification come also exaggeration and excessive electricity. In actual experience, this can often lead them to have intense sexual experiences, very often without knowing when and where to set the boundaries. This is why it is not uncommon for people with multiple 8s to have had experienced sexual abuse or various forms of sexual violation. But interestingly, it is partially a result of their own immense and sometimes unsatiable desires. And let's not forget that they themselves can sometimes be the violators, not knowing when to stop or how to control themselves in a sexual encounter. Right? So they will sometimes throw themselves into a situation out of intense passion and almost like this inability to stop themselves, and then pay a high price for that. Again, we see here the physicality of the 8, how things are really expressed and experienced in the body, the positive and the negative. By the way, as a side note, it can be a very healthy thing for strong 8s to remember and appreciate how important sexual interaction is for them. It is an intrinsic part of their sense of vitality and physicality. And I just want them, or want you, if you're an 8, to remember or to know that for you in a relationship to have vital sexual interaction, exciting and thrilling sexual interaction is important. It's just important to also know how to balance it and not let it kind of slide into negativity or the shadow side. Nevertheless, with repeating 8s, the boundaries between a healthy sexual encounter and a violating one can be really blurry. This is partly because on some level, and hear me out here, this is maybe like the point here, pain and pleasure are both forms of pleasure for the 8, in the sense that they are both a form of intensity from the perspective of the 8. And intensity for an 8 is pleasure. I'll repeat that. Intensity for number 8 is pleasure, especially if it repeats itself more than once. What I mean by that is that the 8 repeats itself more than once in one's chart, okay? Not the experience. So if one has multiple 8s, there's even more desire for intensity, and that's where pleasure and pain sometimes are indistinguishable in the sense that it's just forms of intensity. Do you get that? This is really, really special and a very, very important point if you happen to have strong 8s in your chart. Next, so we covered 2 points by now. And the third point I'm going to get to in one moment. But before I keep talking any further, if you are enjoying this podcast and you want to keep learning more grounded, applicable, and high-quality numerology, make sure to click the follow or subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell on the platform you're listening from and become part of my numerology community. Also, make sure to check out the questions at the end of the episodes. I'd love to hear from you. It helps me know more about you, my listeners, and provide you with better content. Let's keep going. So we're getting now to the third point. So you know how we all think of number 8 as powerful and authoritative, right? And if you don't, then, go ahead and read about number 8 in books. Go listen to my previous episode about number 8, like the general description of number 8. You'll always hear about 8 as a powerful and authoritative number. Well, it may come as a surprise for you to know that many 8s have experienced more than once in their life the experience of being dominated by stronger authorities than themselves. It's not uncommon that it started with their parents. Domestic violence, violent parents that stomp over their child's sense of power and sometimes really crush them. It's enough to have one central 8 in your chart for that to be the case. But certainly more probable if you have repeating 8s in your core numbers. You will sometimes see either one or both parents being extremely stifling to the repeating 8 child, very suffocating. You will also witness cases of humiliation and strong displays of disrespect. It's truly the shadow of 8 in overdrive. And when I say humiliation, I'm speaking about the child who's embodying multiple 8s, or again, sometimes like a very central 8. For example, an 8 in their life path number. They will be the ones experiencing humiliation and being disrespected. Just to make sure that you didn't confuse what I meant here. Now, as they grow up, it can often play out in 2 ways. They will either become very aggressive and violent people themselves, simply copy-pasting and carrying on the same energy. Or they may become almost crippled, afraid of their own energies, and sometimes in disconnection from their own inherent strength, natural force, and power. And this is not an easy situation for an 8 because 8, of all numbers, 8 is truly craving for that sense of control, of respect, of power. So it can be experienced as incredibly castrating for 8s. Man or woman, this doesn't really matter. And I've seen that in both. So this is, again, a very interesting thing to hear about number 8, right? Because you would imagine 8s to be powerful, maybe from the get-go. But then again, sometimes you'll experience 8s that are kind of like almost like shocked or weakened or extremely afraid, and you won't understand what's going on there. And then if you will question them, you'd realize that they experience some of this extreme sort of overpowering by stronger figures in their life that truly stifled their life force and their sense of their sense of power. So, we've spoken about 3 major phenomena that take place with repeating 8s in one's core numbers. Explosive and destructive encounters with people, sexual abuse and violation, and being overpowered by stronger people or forces. Now the question is, how on earth do we balance out these tendencies? Well, it's a great question. And I wish you good luck in answering that. Nah, just kidding. Okay, so most importantly, 8s need to understand that giving up on their power and energy and living in a resigned way won't work. Also, living in constant aggression and a violent temperament won't do. They have to learn to understand their power and reach a refined level of self-control that is neither suppressing nor imposing, but a fine line just in the middle. A masterful self-control of their power, force, and life energy. A good way to go about it for 8s, being such a physical being, is often through martial arts or sports. It could also be by connecting to their deeper inner spiritual powers and learning to use them for constructive ends. A bit like learning to awaken and properly use their inner electricity. Right? So what I'm basically pointing to here by martial arts, sports, or cultivating their spiritual powers is developing this sense of agency, this sense of ableness, and the ability to harness their force in a constructive manner, at will, and in a way that they can feel in a position of healthy control in their own life. Another important element is healing their relationship with authorities and the topic of misuse of power. This can be done by committed long-term transformational therapy and or spiritual work. They need to establish a renewed and positive definition of what it means to be powerful and connected to one's instincts and original power. They need to feel that they own their original power, but do so with mastery and without forcefulness. Part of that would be working on understanding how to establish healthy and empowering boundaries in their lives, both within and without. So I hope that by now you could identify yourself in this episode if you happen to have repeating 8s, multiple 8s in your core numbers. Even if you have one strong 8, for example, in your life path number, as I've already mentioned earlier, you may still identify with much that has been described here. And if you don't have 8s in your chart, maybe you could identify someone you know who has them. Number 8 is a rich, complex, and highly charged number. And with high potentials, well, come bigger challenges as well. Also, the higher the risk, the higher the consequences. And number 8 is definitely a risky player. So sometimes the topics of the 8 are not so easy to hear, as you've probably noticed, and also to digest. So if you've come that far with me, I definitely recommend you give yourself some time to absorb, let it all settle, and simply reflect. With the right attitude, commitment, and patience, everything can be resolved and balanced. So as usual, I hope this inspires you to keep diving deeper and deeper into numerology. And so before we wrap this up, if you are enjoying this podcast and you want to keep learning more in-depth numerology, high-quality numerology, make sure to subscribe to my podcast. Make sure to click the follow or subscribe button on the platform you're listening from. Click on the notifications bell and become part of my numerology community. Remember also to leave your answer to the questions at the end of the episodes. It really helps me know more about you and provide you with better content. And, of course, don't forget to check out my professional numerology readings. It's really deeply life-changing. And lastly, check out my self-study numerology course. and in-depth numerology certification studies if you want to acquire deeper mastery of numerology. My friends, what a joy to share with you each and every time. I hope this inspires you, and as always, I'll see you in the next episodes. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, and you want to go deeper into numerology, check out my website, tom-eckert.com. You can also book a numerology reading or even study numerology yourself through my courses. I'll see you in the next episode.